actually think that quite a lot of people find themselves thinking, is this really my family? Are these really my parents? I think a lot of people have had that experience. And some of my closest friends, if you look at their birth family, you think, how on earth did they come from that family? They just don't seem to fit with that family, but it was interesting the way you were expressing that you had the concern that when you spoke about that, it might sound like you were the bad person, and there is that kind of inference, isn't there? Oh my God, am I disloyal or am I, wrong in some way? But you're not, but maybe you don't realize it till you're an adult and you start to.
Definitely. It's a great observation. Yeah. No, as a child, I mean, you're thinking with a child's mind. I'm thinking I'm a misfit. I'm adopted. I must have been switched at birth. I must have banged my head. And I remember as a child, my cousin was a priest out of New York, Father Tom, big, huge man. He went over to America to be a priest. He left Ireland years ago. He's my cousin, but he's about 20 years older than me. And one time he came back to Ireland for a holiday, and he came through and he stayed in our family's home. He's a lovely man. He's passed away since, but he's this giant of a man, kind-hearted. Everything about him was wonderful. Father Tom Hayes, gorgeous man. But we went up the Dublin Mountains, which are like foothills, but we call them the Dublin Mountains. Go for a drive one day. And Dad's driving an old Peugeot 504 back then, the top car, when we were kids. And we're getting to climb in the back of the car, driving up the hill, and he'd drive slowly. It'd be all in the back of the car. And like this as kids, when we were kids, you wouldn't do it nowadays. You'd be arrested for endangering your kids. But back then, they'd lie in the back window of the back window of the back seat kind of stuff. All these kind of things you do. Sit on the roof of the car when he's driving, sit in the bonnet. Like crazy stuff now. But my uncle, Father Tom, or I call him my uncle because he's so much older than me, but he was my first cousin. He was carrying me on his shoulders, running up the road by the car. He's a big man and he could lift me up. And I was about 6 or 7 years of age. Didn't he drop me on my head? He tripped and he fell over and I hit my head. And I got a scar on my head here. I got stitches on my head. And it's in the shape of a cross. My mother said, he's going to be the first Irish Pope. She had this idea I'm going to be an Irish Pope. But he dropped me on my head. And I used to think that's that phrase about he must have been dropped on his head. I thought maybe this was something to do with, because I was dropped on my head as a child. This is why I was different to my siblings, why I didn't fit in. I wasn't adopted or switched at birth. I was dropped in my head as a child, But as a child, you believe these things, and that's where you go with it, And it becomes your inner belief. And you really very hard to get away from it when you have that inner belief that you are broken, adopted, switched at birth, or dropped as a child with a scar to prove it. Very funny. Anyway, looking back now, I smile at it, but back then, in that moment, as a 6-year-old child, you're thinking, this is the reason why I don't fit in with my family. There must have been, I dropped at birth by a priest of all people, it's kind of crazy. Anyway.
Couldn't make it up.
Yeah, you couldn't make it up. Great story to have. Yeah.